Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this full council meeting of the 25th of October. Can I remind everybody that the meeting is hybrid and we have a number of participants joining the meeting remotely. Also, the meeting is being streamed live and stored for later viewing. I can suspend the webcast if I think it will affect the proceedings. A recording of the meeting will also be published on the Council's YouTube channel. As usual, any motions or amendments need to be moved and seconded, and any votes would be by roll call, given that we have members online. I'd like to remind everybody that I will be flexible within reason in the length of time people can speak due to circumstances. Colleagues, before we move to this evening's agenda, I want to make some comments on three separate matters. Firstly, I want to make a statement on the appalling events which have unfolded recently in Israel and Palestine. I'm sure all elected members will share my shock at what has and is happening and the terrible loss of so many lives, and join me in expressing great sympathy to all those who are suffering. Our thoughts are with those in our local communities who have been affected by this conflict, and the Council offers its support to those communities. Secondly, it was with great sadness that we learned recently of the death of John Wilson, former Director of Education within East Renfrewshire Council. John passed away on October the 14th at the age of 73. Over many years, John made a significant impact on improving outcomes for our learners, particularly our most vulnerable children and young people. He was a head of service when East Renfrewshire Council was first established and was appointed Director of Education in 2002, a post he held until 2013. As a result of John's outstanding leadership, he left a real legacy, focusing on continuous improvement and the use of evidence and data. His ambition around raising attainment for all learners and his passion and commitment to inclusion. John laid the foundations for the success of education in East Renfrewshire, and this was recognised nationally with the 2 sector-leading inspections by Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Education. I worked closely with John over many years, including as Convener of Education Inequalities, and I'm sure members will join me in passing on our condolences to his family. And finally, colleagues, before we turn to the agenda, I'm keen to pass on the Council's good wishes to members of our Hindu community who recently celebrated the festivals of Navratri and Deshara. It was my pleasure to attend the Hindu temple recently and meet some of the community's inspirational young people who were a credit to themselves and to their families. Thank you, colleagues. And now, turning to the agenda for tonight's meeting. Are there any apologies for absence? Colin?
Apologies from Councillor Bamforth, Provost.
Are there any other apologies? Councillor Buchanan?
Thank you, Provost. Not sure I can get my hand raised there in the unit. Can I submit apologies for Councillor Ireland and Councillor Convery?
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much. Next item is concerning declarations of interest. The Councillors' Code of Conduct requires elected members to declare any connection they may have in any of the items on the agenda. Are there any declarations of interest? None intimated. Thank you. Item 3, the minute of the meeting of the 13th of September. This is submitted for approval. Without discussion, only questions. Nobody is indicating any questions on that. So that's agreed. Next one, item 4, minute of the special meeting of the 26th September. Similarly, any questions or can we agree? Agreed, thank you. Okay, thank you. So on to item 5 now. That's the minutes of meetings for the period 12th September to 24th October. And I'm going to ask Colin to come in first of all. Colin.
Thank you, Provost. Prior to Council agreeing the minute volume, I'd like to highlight a couple of changes to the minutes of the Education Committee of 28th September, which the Director of Education has shared with me since the minutes were published. These were sent to all members in an email from me earlier this afternoon, but for the record, I would like these to be read aloud. So in the minute volume, members, page 657, under where it says members that were in attendance.
Sorry, Colin, could I interrupt you,
Yep.
please? It's to give people a chance to get to the
Sure.
page. Could you repeat
Yep,
the page number,
certainly.
please?
Page 657, members.
657?
Yep.
Thanks.
Under members attending, Councillor O'Donnell is named to be removed from those present, and apologies for absence to be recorded. Next page, 658, minute number 610. That references to Cameron Gibbs in paragraphs 1 and 3 be amended to read Cameron Gibb. Minute volume, page number 660. Minute number 615. That the sentence after C, leadership empowerment and improvement, be amended by removing the words include comments from the communications team and replacing these with be produced by a graphic design team. Final one, Provost, page 661, minute number 616. That the penultimate paragraph be amended by A, removing the words intimated that work had been done on the key words and replacing these with spoke on the engagement that had taken place with key stakeholders. And B, removing the words and provide further recognition of the work involved and replacing these with he also mentioned the self-evaluation framework that had been developed and included in the appendix to the report, and that this was being used to strengthen impact. Thank you, Provost. When you get to these minutes in the volume, these changes will be incorporated unless challenged. Thank you.
Okay, so nothing controversial there. Okay, I will now come to the minute volume, and again I'll read the names of the committees, and if I'm too quick and you need me to go back again, I'm happy to do that. So, Appointments Committee of the 12th September, Council 13th September, Cabinet, Police and Fire 14th September, Audit and Scrutiny 26th September, Special Council 26th September, Education 28th September, Licensing Committee 3rd of October, Planning Applications Committee 4th of October, Local Review Body 4th of October, Cabinet 5th of October, and the Cabinet of the 12th of October. Agreed, everybody? Thank you very much. So, moving now to item 6. These are items remitted to the Council, and this one is about the Treasury Management Report for 2022-23, Quarter 1, remitted by the Audit and Scrutiny Committee of the 26th of September. That's on pages 3 to 18. So it's been remitted here, recommending that the attached organisations for investment of surplus funds be approved. And I'll invite Councillor Morrison to comment if he so wishes.
That's super. Thank you, Provost. Just to say that on the meeting of 26 September, the Audit and Scrutiny Committee reviewed the Chief Financial Officer's report on Treasury Management operations for the first quarter of the 2023-24 accounting year. I would note that delays impacting on some of the major projects, capital projects the Council have, has meant that we haven't had to borrow as much as previously planned thus far to support our capital programme. However, these projects will still be delivered at some point in the future, so we will need to take on those borrowings in future years. So this is simply a timing matter rather than a permanent saving. Otherwise, in terms of performance, we were content that the Council has operated satisfactorily against indicators, against risk, prudence and debt, and would, as you suggested, request that Council approves the list of counterparties for investment as per Appendix 8 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Morrison. Are there any questions or comments from colleagues? Councillor Anderson.
With regards to, I just happened to notice a particular item in the news that I saw today about with regards to investment and the organisations and banks that are regarded as being of sufficient standard or recommended by the Bank of England, etc. There's actually a, sorry, I've just, Goldman Sachs was one of the banks mentioned that's in the appendix as well. And recently there's an investigation been carried out where they've discovered that there's pharmaceutical companies that they invest in. And what's the process for us to back out, or if you can explain the process and when things like that occur?
So, could I invite Margaret to come in here, unless you want to say anything in addition, Councillor Morrison? Who first?
I would simply add that I think it's important, as Councillor Anderson has said, that we consider the ethics of the considerations within where the Council places its money. So, yeah, I think that would be quite a good thing to pick up. Thank you.
Thanks, Provost. The investments that we're looking at here are not long-term investments specifically into any types of shares. We are looking at investments that are typically a month to 6 months, and rather than being in a particular industry such as pharmaceuticals or any other area, they are simply deposits placed with that bank. So we're not actually investing in any specific areas the way that perhaps a pension fund, which would be investing for the long term, would be. These are really short-term places to deposit our money to generate income, and it is simply one of a number of banks that are regarded as safe places to hold our money for short-term periods. We have taken advice, and we regularly have the advice updated by our Treasury advisors on which banks are stable and secure places to hold our money, and we are constantly getting updates on the safety of these banks in terms of being able to take our money and for us to be certain that we are going to get that money back when the short-term loan or short-term deposit matures. So we're actively doing that all the time, and any changes in the ratings of those financial institutions would mean that we would amend the list of counterparties, and this is why it comes to you every quarter.
Thank you very much, Margaret.
Thanks, Margaret.
Your question answered, Councillor Anderson. Okay, thank you very much. Is that agreed, everybody? Moving on to the next item, number 7. Statements by conveners and representatives on joint boards and committees. We have 2 statements. The first is from Councillor Pragnell as Vice Chair to the Integration Joint Board. Councillor Pragnell.
Thank you, Provost. At our last Integration Joint Board on the 27th of September, we approved the annual report and accounts for 2022-23, following a very good report from our new auditors, Ernst & Young. The auditors made a recommendation that urgent work is needed with partners to develop a sustainable funding position, recognising the financial pressures and budget challenges that the IJB and our partners are facing. The latest revenue budget monitoring report shows that the Health and Social Care Partnership remains in a very challenging financial position and shows a potential overspend of just over £3 million. Despite the ongoing work to identify further savings and mitigate cost pressures, this highlights the growing demand and complexity for services. The HSCP remain focused on delivering savings, with £2.4 million achieved so far against the £7 million target. However, the projected overspend further adds to this pressure. The Chief Financial Officer presented the Charging for Services report, which will be considered by Cabinet in November. The report increased existing charges in line with inflation, in line with the inflation rate identified by the Council. The Short Life Working Group to support income generation continues, and any further changes will be brought to a future Cabinet meeting. We also had annual reports on clinical and care governance, as well as the Chief Social Work Officer's report, which is included in this evening's agenda. Both reports demonstrated the significant amount of work that has been delivered by the HSCP, and the IGB commended the prevention work that is still taking place in light of the pressures being faced. The Chief Officer provided an update on the National Care Service, noting that there has been some agreement reached around the shared legal responsibility between the Scottish Government and councils, but there is yet to be a decision on whether children's services or criminal justice will be included in a National Care Service. Stage 1 of the bill has been extended to January 2024, and the Scottish Government advised that they remain committed to delivering the National Care Service legislation by the end of the 2026 parliamentary year. Lastly, we had our regular update on delayed discharge from hospital. East Renfrewshire was ranked 3rd in Scotland for standard delays. However, we are currently seeing an increase in the number of people waiting. A number of factors impact on performance, such as capacity, both in-house and externally, as well as increasing complexity. We continue to see an increase in the number of people requiring 2 carers, and there has been a number of delays due to adults with incapacity. This concludes the report. Thank you, Provost.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pragnell. And the next statement is from Councillor Anderson as Convener of Education and Equalities. Thank you.
Thank you, Provost. My statement has 3 parts. The first part is regarding the National Strategy for Public Libraries in Scotland, which has 3 main areas of focus: people, place and partnership. In East Renfrewshire, our libraries work in partnership with a number of agencies to deliver on key strategic aims, and the partnership we have with Macmillan Cancer Support is one of the strongest. Macmillan East Ren was launched in 2019 and is a partnership between Macmillan Cancer Support and East Renfrewshire Culture and Leisure, providing drop-in face-to-face support and information to people in East Renfrewshire who are affected by cancer. Through a team of trained volunteers, we deliver weekly cancer support and information sessions at Barhead Foundry and Clarkson Library. Partnering with public libraries means that people living with cancer are able to access support in their local community as part of their everyday lives, not just when visiting the doctor or at hospital. We are delighted to announce that following another successful funding application, we are able to extend the partnership between Macmillan and East Renfrewshire Libraries for a further 3 years through to 2026. Also, the recent Macmillan Coffee Morning held in Clarkson Library in September and supported by the Provost raised nearly £600 for the charity. The second part of the statement is with regards to the Swim Awards and the Provider of the Year. And I'd like to acknowledge that the Trust Swim Development Team were, for the 2nd year in a row, runner-up in the Swim Provider of the Year Awards run by Scottish Swimming. Whilst it is disappointing to be only runner-up, it shouldn't detract from the fact that we are once again shortlisted in the top 3 swim providers across Scotland, out of over 40 other operators in the public, private and third sectors, which in itself is a significant achievement. This reflects the significant programme growth achieved recently, with over 1,200 new members recruited to the programme this year and a total programme exceeding 3,000 members for the first time. The Trust received particularly strong feedback on the improvements that we have made in terms of developing a very strong and committed workforce with a team of teachers whose skills have been significantly developed and invested in to deliver the national framework. With colleagues in schools, we have revised our programme to focus on water safety, which is now used as a national example. We received strong praise from Scottish Water on our promotion of the wider public safety messaging around open water. The Trust's crash course swimming lessons focus on water safety, complementing both the summer holiday, free swimming and opportunities to care experienced young people. And the third part of the statement is regards to acknowledge Care Experience Week. This week, from the 23rd to the 29th of October, is Care Experience Week. Every year we use this as an opportunity to celebrate with our care experienced young people, their families and those who support them. It encourages young people to understand their care identity and connect with their peers. This is also a great opportunity to raise awareness of our care experience community within East Renfrewshire, and we have been delighted to host the event at Eastwood Theatre once again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and must be commended for all the good work in both reports, so that was enjoyable to hear. Thank you. And now we will go to item 8, which is Provost Engagement, page 19 and 20, and simply for noting. We'll move on. Is that agreed? Yes, thank you. So moving on to item 9, Chief Social Work Officer's Annual Report, and 2022-23 on pages 21 to 64. So, Councillor Cragnell, you might want to say a few words. I don't know if you want to say a few words first of all, or if you want Raymond to go in first. Whatever you decide.
You have in front of you this report. As I said earlier, it was presented to IGB last month. I would just like to thank Raymond and the team for this report. I know this is Raymond's second as Chief Social Work Officer, and I think you'll all agree that there's excellent work taking place in East Renfrewshire. So it's just to praise everyone involved, and also to thank our partners as well in education and the third sector, who all help to create and foster a great environment for our young people in East Renfrewshire. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will all agree with that. If I could just ask Raymond to come in first of all and offer the opportunity to comment, and you might as well, Julie, but I'll leave it to you, Raymond, first of all. Thank you.
Thank you, Provost. This annual Chief Social Work Officer report highlights ongoing and increased demand for services and associated higher levels of need and complexity. We continue to witness post-pandemic fallout from children, families and adults whose needs were not as visible or were hidden during the pandemic, and issues that are only now coming to light. This reporting timeframe captures the result of the Care Inspectorate inspection of children and young people at risk of harm in East Renfrewshire. Elected members will recall the sector-leading excellent grading we received from this inspection. We also received notification of our adult support and protection inspection in this reporting period. That inspection has also since concluded, highlighting again our very good activity in this field. As Chief Social Work Officer, I would suggest we should all be immensely proud of the excellent and high standards of public protection work evidenced in our area that benefits our residents and our communities. This report also highlights other areas of strength, from our approaches to supporting individuals with mental and emotional wellbeing needs, our continued commitment to deliver the promise, our support to victims of domestic abuse, including our use of our multi-agency risk assessment case conferences, and our support to asylum-seeking children, and also our involvement in the Bairns House. Indeed, we received notification from Scottish Government yesterday that we have been successful as part of the North Strathclyde Bairns House partnership in becoming a Pathfinder site. The financial pressures on the HSCP requires unprecedented action, such as entering into a voluntary redundancy scheme. This will result in significant posts coming out of the HSCP social work structure. This will also in turn require restructure across our services, impacting on our workforce, who will have to absorb this. Our workforce are our greatest strength, and our residents benefit from their continued commitment and dedication. As referenced in my report, their daily tasks can be challenging and should not be underestimated. Our staff support some of our most traumatised, vulnerable and disadvantaged in our communities. I would like to also add that we don't work in isolation. We have strong partnerships with the families and individuals we work with, as well as third sector colleagues. Crucially, our social work service values and benefits greatly from the strong partnership working we have with all departments and services across the whole of East Renfrewshire Council. I'll conclude by thanking elected members for their continued support, and I'm happy to receive any comments or questions.
Thank you very much, Raymond. I noticed Councillor Edlin had indicated that he wished to speak. If anybody else, could you just let me know, Councillor Edlin?
Thank you, Provost. I have a question to Raymond. If I could refer to page 31 of the report, please. Perhaps my question is being asked more for clarification than anything else. In section 2.1, the first two paragraphs, there seems to be a huge increase in the demand for services here. If you look at paragraph 2, the increase is quantified at 48%. And in paragraph 1, there's a numeric increase of 29%, I think it says. But my question is was this predicted, and was this expected? I mean, we're emerging from COVID. Would you expect the demand for these services to increase as we emerge from COVID at this time, or would you have expected a decrease in the numbers requesting the service? Perhaps you could give us a more descriptive pattern of the service than is in the report. And is this something that we should be concerned about going forward? Because I think these are related, these are intervention services, which obviously could be a concern to the general community if these are increasing by such a large number. So I would like to hear some clarification if possible, please.
Certainly, thank you, Councillor Edlin. I think as I referenced just at the start there, I think what we are seeing is just some of the continued fallout post-pandemic. And I think what we're seeing is some of the hidden harm that has maybe been happening within our communities that we weren't aware of, because although some services were around and were available, clearly there were a lot of other services that weren't. And there was also clearly some families, some children and some adults who wouldn't have been known to services prior to the pandemic, and that we are only now coming to witness in receiving our services. So it does is an increase, and that could be looked at as a concern. However, I think, again, because of the standard of quality of services that we have and because of the accessibility of services, I would like to think that we've got the reach going out to the communities and the people who require it. So we are seeing that increase, but I do still think it's directly related to the fallout from the pandemic.
Entry, please. Could you give us some details of the type of cases you're seeing in this? And I mean, and you also mentioned redundancies. I mean, have you got the staff to cope with this continued increase? Is it something we should be worried about in general terms for the residents and the communities of our council?
Thank you again, Councillor Edlin. Within the report, we are still seeing the main referral route or concern that comes through is about parental mental health. Domestic abuse and domestic abuse concerns are still high referral routes for us. The point about staffing levels, which again is why I was highlighting that, because clearly we are going through a voluntary redundancy process that will require us to consider removing posts from our structure. We will have to redesign over that. I can't minimise the extent that will have. So we will need to concern ourselves with making sure that we are trying to mitigate against any potential risks of those frontline operational services from that front door, those services, those first access points, but also about the public protection aspects of it, be it child protection, adult protection, and also, as we are still seeing through those referrals, there's an increase in children with complex additional support needs. So these are all increasing, but given the Health and Social Care Partnerships financial situation, we are unfortunately having to consider this voluntary redundancy scheme to try and mitigate just about the financial pressures.
Can I ask you to comment again, please? It just sounds to me like these cuts are going to have huge adverse effects on sections of our community, and I'd just like to record my concern, I'm sure the rest of the Council's concern, that we are being forced to impose such cuts, which must affect service. And apart from the service cuts, there's going to be staff morale cuts of all these redundancies. It's just very, very concerning.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other comments or questions? Sorry, yeah.
Thank you, Provost. It's just, I mean, it's terrific how much gorgeous, excellent work is going on. You know, it's commendable. I just want to highlight page 51, the interagency referral discussions. This peer-to-peer risk with sexually harmful behaviour, that's gone up again this year. Now, I remember distinctly in the past, last year, I don't know whether it was this report or an education report, that I questioned this because I find it very worrying as a mother, apart from anything else. And I just wonder, do you think there's any reason for this increase? Is it social media? Is it, or is it the sex education in schools, which I have questions about, because it is a worry that I believe our children are being sexualised too early. Can I just ask your opinion on that?
Certainly, thanks, Councillor Campbell. And yes, you're correct. It was at this point last year at the Chief Social Work Officer report that you made that comment previously. I think there's complexity within here too, because even within the peer-on-peer, as described within that, some of that can be familial, and some of it will not be familial. So we can break that apart, and that clearly will have different emphasis about how we would approach it and how we would try and support and deal with it. Again, it's similar to the previous question. I think because of the strong partnerships that we have across East Renfrewshire and across the council, so the early identification that we might have of concerns, be it through, if it is through social media, and sometimes it may well be, or if it's through other reported concerns coming from colleagues from education or elsewhere, it means that we can identify that and deal with it, and that will lead to that inter-referral agency discussion that will take place. So there is complexity about it in relation to how that goes. There's not a straight correlation for me to be able to answer about it is definitely social media, it is definitely this. It's just a complex area that we are obviously seeing. What I would say is, again, because of the inspections that we have received, that we have great strength in capturing those referrals coming through quickly, going through that IRD process, for us to then have that joint discussion with social work, health, with police, with others, with education, to then formulate a plan, and actually a very involved and detailed and intense plan to support these families and to support these children.
Thank you for that. Can I just ask just one other comment on something? It's the financial harm thing on page 56. I was really pleased to see that you are making moves to, make the public more aware, because my own mother-in-law, my 80-year-old mother-in-law in Lewis, she suffered, I suppose, financial abuse. What are you doing to, inform the public? It's just out of interest.
Sorry. Again, I think it's the early identification and the partnership working that we've got. So I think it's referenced within the report, just the strength that we have about the partnerships and actually people having confidence at reporting things into us. So we've deliberately, through our adult services, tried to target that risk of financial harm and to get that message out to communities. We're also working closely with our colleagues in the Environment Department, Trade and Standards, others who would assist in trying to get other mitigations to support the concerns that would be around. So again, but a very deliberate intent on our part to focus on how we would target and get that information out to the community, so that people, if they are aware of concerns or have even a slight concern, that they would know to refer it on to us, and that would be something that we would be in progress and to take over.
Thank you.
Can I give my apologies to you, Councillor Campbell? I didn't introduce you with your full title. I was stopping myself from calling you by your first name, so apologies for that. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you very much, Provost. It's with reference to page 58, the resources within this report. You'll appreciate there's been a lot of questions tonight, Raymond, a lot of interest in this very important report. I note in particular the 4.5...
Sorry, Councillor Morrison, just to interrupt you, could you put your microphone off, please, Raymond, so that Councillor Morrison is actually recorded?
Okay, no worries at all. Thank you, Provost. From the top, it's on page 58, looking at the resources within this report. So paragraph, in addition, we spent 4.564 million on COVID-19 activity, and obviously that's been a ring-fenced resource budget which has helped deal with COVID-19 pressures. I dare say that has helped you in the financial position over the last couple of years. I was just wondering, in terms of the financial and outlook for the next few years, if there's any potential funds in the pipeline from the Scottish Government future which would help mitigate against that. It's a pity there's no SNP elected members in the chamber tonight who could perhaps give some insight into the Scottish Government position on this, but I'd appreciate if you have any information from your side. Thank you.
Not any more than anyone else has. I think we don't anticipate any more COVID funding, so we obviously hope that we'll be funding, but I don't have any information about that.
Any other particular funds post-COVID to help with pressures that we face on this?
I'm not aware of that. I think there'll be additional funding probably coming through for increased funding to social care staff in the third and independent sector, which will be welcome because one of our big issues just now is being able to recruit.
Councillor Wallace is indicating. Anybody else, if you could let me know. Thanks. Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Provost. Just following on from Councillor Campbell's comments earlier, I would say it's of great concern that we don't know the reasons behind what is causing this increase in abuse of various forms. And I would have thought it was a matter of urgency that we find out, just break this down as to what are the reasons for this increase in abuse. And therefore, hopefully thereafter, we can find methods in which we can put in a prevention programme of some description. So just like that, I wonder if this could be something that could be incorporated and fed back to full council as to a bit more in depth as to what the causes or what lies behind the increase in abuse. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Wallace. Yeah, apologies if I haven't answered that as thoroughly as I would have liked to. Again, what I was trying to indicate was that there's a variety of different things that would equate to that peer-on-peer, whether it would be familial or non-familial. Again, we're talking about small numbers, so even when looking at the percentages within what we're talking about within that report, it is overall small numbers, but very important that we clearly do understand what those needs of those children are. Literally because of the nature of it, all of this will instigate that interagency referral discussion. That's child protection. It literally always hits that threshold. We will then, through the discussions that will take place through the partners, through education, health, social work and police, we will formulate a plan, a child protection plan. We will go through the statutory process of supporting those children and those families, and depending on the circumstances of what they are. It may well be that it is peer-on-peer concerning things that could have been through social media, sharing of images, these kind of things. Clearly, if it's familial, that could be a very different set of circumstances, and there could be a different make-up of whatever that could be within a family setting. So there's a variety of different things, but I would like to assure Council that we take this very seriously, and again, it would be processed through our child protection processes and procedures.
Okay, thank you, Raymond. Is that you finished with your questions, Councillor Wallace?
No, I wonder if I just pass comment there. I dare say it was maybe a slip of the tongue, but I'm just concerned that the phrase "it's just small numbers." are a concern that we're using words like that. Any number is not small when it's coming to abuse. So I take it that was just a throwaway comment, and we have to take every case seriously as possible and just find what's behind all this. Thank you.
Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you, Provost. There does appear to be some sound issues. I think it seems to be coming and going. I'm not sure if it's from this end or if it's in the chamber. But none, can I just, first of all, I think just highlight the great work that Raymond has done and all the social care staff and team to achieve what they have done with the resources that they have and in a very challenging period has been frankly outstanding. So congratulations to all of the team for what is a very comprehensive report over a very challenging time. I think the other thing that you touched on there was the good news announced yesterday that we will receive Pathfinder funding as part of the North Strathclyde on the Bairnshouse project, which again we initially led the way on, and as again great news that is going forward, and we're getting that additional support for what is and does appear to be moving forward at quite a pace, and a project which seems to be very rewarding in terms of its results. Again, it was touched, I think, Councillor funding yet, of course, no other budget yet, and indeed neither does Scottish Government know what they'll be receiving yet, and I'm sure that any funding measures will be discussed in the not too distant future once we know those outcomes. But again, thanks to everyone in the social work and social care team for an excellent report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Buchanan. Councillor O'Donnell.
Raymond, really welcome this report and congratulate, as Councillor Buchanan has, for yourself and for the team. I think we can't go from this item without recognising the external reports on children and adult services. Those were pretty incredible reports that we received back in a very challenging financial environment. So it shows that despite the constraints that you are working and really focused on excellent results both for our children and both for our adults. So thank you very much for that.
If there are no further comments, then Raymond, please accept the commendations from the elected members, and thank you. Please pass on the thanks to everybody involved. So thank you very much for that. So, colleagues, we are asked to approve the content of the Chief Social Work Officer Annual Report attached as Appendix 1 for submission to the Office of the Chief Social Work Advisor, Scottish Government. Agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Item 10, Health and Social Care Partnership Revised Integration Scheme Draft for Consultation in pages 65 to 108. So the Council is asked to note the content of this report and approve the draft revised integration scheme for consultation. Are there any questions or comments? None indicated, nobody online. So can we agree that report? Agreed. Thank you. Item 11, Statutory Review of Polling Scheme, pages 109 to 116. So the report is asking the Council to note the requirements to undertake a statutory review of the polling scheme between 1st of October 23 and 31st of January 2025. Approve the timetable relating to the statutory review of the polling scheme as outlined in Appendix 2, with authority being delegated to the Chief Executive to make such changes to the timetable as considered necessary. Approve for consultation the draft polling scheme at Appendix 1 and authorise the Chief Executive to commence the 8-week consultation on 1st of November 2023 and to note that a further report will be presented to Council at its meeting on the 24th of April 2024 once the consultation has ended. Are there any questions or comments, colleagues? Can we agree the report? Agreed. Thank you. The next item, item 12, post of head of place. So this report is asking the Council to note the retirement of the head of place with effect from the 25th of April 24, approve the recruitment procedure as detailed, delegate to the head of Human Resources and Corporate Services in consultation with the Director of Environment to make the necessary arrangements, to provide nominations to the Appointments Committee, I'll come back to that, and authorise the Director of Environment to put in place appropriate interim management arrangements for the department if required. So, can we agree that so far? And I'll just go back to nominations to the Appointments Committee. So, appointments, what do we need for this?
5.
Colin, we need 5 people. Councillor O'Donnell?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Councillor Pragnell, yourself, Provost, and myself, plus 1 member from the SNP group and 1 member from the Conservative group.
Okay, are the Conservative group and the SNP group able to provide nomination, or do you want to submit that at a later date? Are you ready to provide a name? Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Wallace?
Yeah, that's okay. I can... Sorry, you want to go?
Councillor Buchanan. Sorry, Councillor Buchanan, the line is awful. If that's a yes, can you not?
Happy to. I'm happy to nominate Councillor Lundy.
Okay, thank you very much.
Able to hear me?
Yes, I did. Thanks very much, Councillor Lundy. Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, I haven't asked the question yet, but I would nominate Councillor Campbell for. Councillor Campbell for that. If she's going to nod her head to that.
She has agreed. Thank you very much. So we can agree item 12. Okay.
Can I just come in?
Yes, Councillor O'Donnell.
We haven't mentioned the retirement of Gillian McCartney. I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to celebrate her work here at a later stage.
Very much so, yes. So thank you very much for reminding us of the work of Gillian as well, and how much we value her service over the time, and we look forward to letting her know that. But also, it's always sad to lose officers, but I'm glad that they're going to be enjoying their retirement. So, can we agree item 12, colleagues? Thank you. So, that concludes the business, and I now declare the meeting closed. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you.